And call this regular meeting of the Enfield Board of Education to order at, looks like 7:04. Please stand for the invocation, and it's going to be Mr. Grady who's going to be giving it.
As parents, we witness our children being born. In a blink of an eye, they are graduating high school. We really hope that they accomplish their goals that they set in either higher education or a career. We as a board wish to congratulate our graduates at Enrico Fermi and Enfield High School in obtaining one of their goals, their high school diploma, and also whatever they set their minds on after their ceremony next week. Pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The fire evacuation announcement, in case we have to evacuate this chamber, there are two exits, one immediately in front of me to your rear. Go down the stairs and out the double doors to the grassy area. The other one to my left, to your right, go through these double doors, take an immediate left to through the doors, down the stairs, and out into the parking lot. Kathy, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Grady?
Here.
Mrs. Suzak?
Here.
Mr. Serrard?
Here.
Ms. Hall? Here. Mrs. Rancourt? Mr. Janitis?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc? Mr. Feely? Chairman Neville?
Here. Moving on to item 6, do we have board guests, or is that going to be part of your, the superintendent's comments?
It's actually part of the superintendent's report.
Okay,
In effect, it's a board guest.
okay. Then we'll move on to item 7, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to begin with a report about the Talented and Gifted program from John F. Kennedy Middle School. Here with us tonight, we have Principal Van Tassel, and we have Mr. Zawodniak, who is the teacher in that program, along with one of his very gifted students that he'll introduce to you. And so they're going to come up. They have a very interesting presentation telling about some of the things they've done and some of the places they hope to go to. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Zawodniak and his technology and his guest student.
Thank you, Dr.
Welcome, come on down.
This is Matt Campo.
Hi, Matt.
All right, so we had screen before, it went blue, so let's hope we have screen. Okay, that's a good sign. Matt Campo is our first sixth grader in terms of the first group that's going to come through for 3 years. So you'll be the first 3-year TAG graduate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Matt and I are going to talk about our PowerPoint. We're also going to talk about what we've accomplished so far in TAG. Where did my mouse go? There we go. Wonderful. This is our year in review, 2012, 2013. First thing we did as a group, the core 24 as we call them, we all embarked on what we call a Model Type 3 project. Basically that involves pretty intensive research, it involves creating a bibliography, it involves interviewing professionals in a particular field. The sixth graders, and Matt's going to talk a little bit about recycling, the sixth grader project was called Go Greener JFK. And the 7th and 8th graders did their project on JFK off the grid, basically looking at alternative energy. Matt, why don't you talk a little bit about recycling in the cafeteria?
Well, us sixth graders in the TAG program implemented recycling into the JFK cafeteria for the first time since it's been opened. I think that's 40 years?
1969.
Yeah. It wasn't exactly an easy process. One of our biggest challenges was getting the students not to dump their full milk cartons into the recycling bins.
Good point.
Because, we didn't really have a place to dispose of all the other milk. And we didn't want them just throwing it in the bin because that wouldn't be easily recyclable for the janitors. And I think we ended up... Where did we end up dumping it, Mr. Z?
What we did was we created signs all around school, and we gave the students an option. And actually, we interviewed Mr. Higgins and Mr. Prosciutti to get their input, since they're there. And we encouraged all our students to please finish your milk before you put it into our blue bins. And that's actually worked. So we didn't get any water into our water fountains. The kids have been really super. And if there was a way to measure how much we could recycle, and that's a whole nother story, which we could maybe do next year. We've made quite an impact just on milk cartons alone, which used to be tossed. We also worked with our town folks at our Public Works, and they were a big help in that. So successful recycling in the cafeteria and in the teacher's room. And the teachers weren't so good with recycling at first. The students were. And Matt and the other sixth graders created signs and posted around. So it's been going really, really well. We're very happy with that. Next slide. We were able to accomplish recycling and working on alternative energy thanks in part to our partnership with Jeff Myjack and the Enfield Clean Energy Committee. In fact, they were so impressed with our recycling work and with our quest for alternative energy, they awarded us solar panels. And we'll be the first school in town to receive solar panels. Mr. Myjack is looking at a target date, spring 2014. The big challenge is going to be to try to upgrade those solar panels. They're not cheap, as I'm sure you could imagine. So we want to upgrade to, I think he said 32 kilowatts, and that's going to involve money. So our plans are right now to sell t-shirts, proceeds going to our recycling and alternative energy efforts, scrap metal drives, and we're going to have to really talk to the Enfield Clean Energy Committee to see if any other fundraising possibilities are out there. We also would like to host the Energy Expo again because it was really successful. And now, with solar panels in our future, it makes more sense. We had a lot on our plate, but there's still things the sixth graders would like to do next year. They are to construct a greenhouse on campus, hopefully using recycled windows or donated materials. We'd like to acquire an anaerobic digester. This might be pie in the sky, but we're going to try. It's a device that takes food waste and composts it without water. And we're hoping to use that compost in the greenhouse. And all proceeds in terms of food we grow would go to Enfield Food Shelf. I remember one day, Matt, myself, and Zach Healy walked outside thinking how we could reduce our carbon footprint. And we were in Blackwing parking lot, and what did we decide would be wonderful for that little grassy U-shaped driveway, that little grassy U-shaped area?
We decided on planting some trees to, brighten the campus, make it a greener place.
So we're going to look into donations for that too. So these are things we'd love to do in the future. Maybe have a nice picnic table there too. I have lunch out there. We had our first field trip on December 11th, 2012. All TAG students went to the Trash Museum in Hartford, which I know sounds kind of odd, but it really helped us with our recycling project. We also went to Steve Moriarty's house on 24 Cedar Road. Steve, if you know him, is trying to go off the grid completely, and he gave us a tour of his solar panels and his recycling efforts and also his geothermal device. Future problem solving. Matt, did you like future problem solving as our first academic competition, and be honest?
No.
Future problem solving was really tough. It was a very challenging endeavor. Basically, you're given a future scene, you have to read it, you have to come up with the big problems, create solutions, and you have to do this in 2 hours. And it's a different way of thinking, and we had 2 practice problems that were submitted and received back. We read the constructive criticism, we did our best to improve, but in the end, we did not qualify for states. But we tried. However, History Day. Was this much better than future problem solving?
Yep, History Day was a lot of fun. We got to work with our groups and at the same time learned a lot about history. That was fun and educational.
What did your group do for History
Our
Day?
group did a project called Carpets and Cartridges. It was on Bigelow Carpet Factory and Hazard Powder Mill.
And you did very well. You received very good praise from the judges. We had one 7th grade group take first place in our category. And I'm impressed with everyone's work on History Day. I don't want to just highlight our 7th graders here. We were so busy in the fall with our Model Type 3 project, getting ready for Energy Expo, future problem solving, and History Day. The fact that we had a team qualify for states is pretty wonderful. And again, all JFK students did very well. The feedback from the judges was pretty outstanding. Irrigation Nation went to states with me April 27th at Central Connecticut State University. They didn't qualify for nationals because they didn't differentiate primary from secondary sources. And we're going to definitely fix that for next year. But it was a lot of fun, and they had a very good time at states. And again, they represented Enfield very well. They're even smiling. I didn't tell them to either. They were very happy to be there. We're going to start History Day much earlier, and hopefully we're going to have more teams at states and hopefully nationals, which would be wonderful. Our Type 3 fair is coming up actually next Wednesday, and I'm going to give Matt the floor to talk about his Type 3 project.
Well, my Type 3 project, we could pretty much do whatever we want, whether it be research, conducting any type of project. I chose to write a short story. In the picture on there, I have only a packet of my story, my process paper, bibliography, but now I have it binded. Looks small, but it's a short story.
What inspired you to write a short story?
Well, I've always liked writing. I didn't really have a topic in mind when I chose to write a short story, but I knew that was what I wanted to do.
An 8th grade student wrote an 81-page paper. Actually, it's a book, and it's entitled Nuclear Physics for the Adolescent Mind. So the projects ran the gamut. So we have 4 authors in the group, and I'm not going to tell you anymore because I want you guys to come to our Type 3 fair. March was really busy. We had to relocate during CMT makeup time, which was fine. We went to the cafeteria, and we were finishing up History Day and starting our Type 3 research. So we have Matt, we have Nick Steele, who actually is doing his project on canine police dogs. He actually interviewed Officer Warden in Falco from our Enfield Police Department. Matt's professional outreach was to Karen Casali, one of our librarians who is in fact a published author, and was a great help to Matt and Jackie as well. We have a lot on our plate for next year, but it's all good. We will continue with History Day. Next year's theme is Rights and Responsibilities. In fact, I have 2 groups already starting research. We will continue with our fundraising, again, thanks to the Enfield Clean Energy Committee. We really want to get that solar panel array up on our library roof. We'll try to get that anaerobic digester, the greenhouse, and our trees on campus. We still would like to host the Northern Connecticut Clean Energy Expo at JFK, and I think Mr. Myjack is not opposed to that. All incoming 6th graders next year, this is new, all incoming 6th graders for their Model Type 3 project will be doing Connecticut Invention Convention, and that's thanks in part to Shannon Grant and the Enfield Foundation for Excellence in Education. They're going to actually sponsor us. Once again, all TAG students next spring will be doing their Type 3 project. So Matt gets to pick a different topic for next year as well. Do you have any questions for Matt or I?
Matt, what did you not like about future problem solving?
Well, future problem solving, the time limit was a little tough, especially for our 6th graders, being our first year. I think, I'm not sure how the 7th and 8th graders felt about it, but all of us 6th graders, it was pretty tough. It was hard to wrap our minds around the different type of thinking. We were okay at it, but we didn't make the states. So, but it just wasn't, it didn't really, what's the word I'm looking for? Didn't suit us.
Did you have to create the problem and then solve it, or
They gave us the problem,
gave you the problem?
and we had to come up with 16 problems, 16 solutions to the problems, an overall problem, an overall solution.
In 2 hours?
Yes.
It was tricky, I'll be honest, even for me, and I'm 46. It's a wonderful academic competition, don't get me wrong, but it's a very different way of thinking if you're not used to attacking a problem and brainstorming and talking to your group within 2 hours. It's a challenge.
Well,
Absolutely.
16 problems, I would think so.
16, and then you create your own criteria. But I don't regret doing it. It was a great experience, and given the fact that we're trying to edit down so we could focus more on other projects, I think future problem solving is not a bad thing to cut. And I have to be honest with you, it would have cost us. We paid only for half by accident. It would have cost for all 24 kids over $1,000 for this competition. History Day was $5 a kid. I'll take History Day, right?
Yep.
So yes, future problem solving, expensive. Not that. That's why we're dropping it. It was tricky.
Any other questions? Donna? And Peter?
I don't have any questions, but it sounds like you guys are making some headway. And I think also you're going to be going to the consolidated high school, and there's a lot of time, effort, and energy being expended on renewable energy and analyzing costs. And so if you keep your eye on, the agendas that are posted, you'll be seeing, I know they're looking right now at geothermal, and we'll be looking at solar panels. And there's a lot of other things that are energy efficient, and they're also looking at recycling in the cafeteria.
That's good to hear.
That's good.
So keep up the work.
Thank you. Peter and then Tom?
Man, I'd like to say you're well-spoken. Very nice.
Thank you.
Your parents did a nice job. As far as problem solving, if I could suggest a problem, could you guys do next year's budget?
We can tackle, sure. We'll try our
In
best.
2 hours or less.
There's more than 16 solutions.
There might be.
A couple questions.
Sure.
If I'm too far out, just say something, because I don't want to put Matt on the spot. You said you studied Bigelow in the powder mill.
Yes.
Could you tell the audience what Bigelow did in World War II for the country?
Yes. They.
Briefly.
Yes, they provided blankets for the soldiers during the war.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, just, that's good enough. At least you knew they did something with the World War II, and there were a number of other items. And down at the powder mill, do you know some of the wars, both in this country and out of the country, that gunpowder was made for?
Well, I know they shipped their gunpowder to Europe, and same with Bigelow. Well, they shipped their carpets, obviously. I believe they helped in the Civil War with cartridges and gunpowder, and even guns.
Good start. Okay, good. As far as Z, you said 24 kids. Is that just 7th and 8th, or is it 7th, 8th, and
We have
6th?
8 students from each grade level.
Okay, so that's basically what we're going to be doing next year, too?
I'd like to do an outreach program, and I've been talking to Ms. Van Tassel and Dr. Schumann about possibilities for an outreach program. One possibility is doing type 3 outreach. As Matt is doing now with his project, perhaps we can do a type 3 outreach for students that are interested that didn't qualify for TAG. That will require us sending out action reports to teachers, sort of hand selecting students who show a passion for a topic that the TAG program could work with.
But for the TAG program itself, 24? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'll have 8 6th graders next year that we're going to COGAT test.
Okay. Now, as far as where you're working, are you primarily working out of the library? Do you have classroom space? What?
We have the workroom in the library as you come into JFK Library, and you take a left. We're in Kathy and Karen's old office.
The old office?
Yep.
Okay.
The space is fine, and if we need to, we expand into the library. And
Okay.
Kathy and Karen have been very helpful with us and giving us resources. It's worked out really well, being where we are.
And as far as cost, what did it roughly cost us to run the whole thing this year?
That's an excellent question.
I mean, are we going to be able to sustain this on the interest, or?
I believe so. We spent the most money for this coming year buying technology. Next year, the only cost would be my salary and any academic competition.
You get paid for this?
I do, and I love it. So next year's cost will be not as bad as buying all the computers and the printer and the iPad.
Okay.
So it'll be less expensive to run the program next
So
year.
you're happy the way it's working?
I'm thrilled with the program. It's been really wonderful. And honestly, I didn't go into this with any expectations. I had some ideas of what I wanted to do, but what we've accomplished so far has been phenomenal. The fact that we're getting solar panels, if you told me this last summer, I would have said, you're crazy. We're not getting solar panels. So we've done a lot in a little amount of time. And I see the kids in 2-hour blocks. And boy, does time fly when you're researching and talking and discussing. And it's gotten to the point where now, I've noticed in the past couple months, Matt will come to me and go, I know I don't have tag today, but if I get permission from my teachers, can I come? Which speaks well of the program because they're excited about it. They want to finish their research. And that, to me, has been the most satisfying part, having the kids want to come to tag, which is really wonderful.
Knowing you the way I know you, don't lower yourself on your expectations, because I know it's infectious with some.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it is a wonderful program. And I've gotten very positive feedback from teachers and parents. So I'm very happy with it. And I think the town should be very happy with it. We've done a lot. We'll have an article in the Enfield Press coming out about our Type 3 fair. So that will be in the paper.
Tom?
Well, first, Matt, you and your parents have every reason to be very proud. You're very well-spoken, as Mr. Janitis has said.
Thank you.
And you're very impressive in a public presentation. I've seen a lot of adults not do as well as you did. So you, again, hold your head up very high. Question for you is, what's your favorite part of TAG?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I have a lot of favorite parts of TAG. Well, one of my favorite parts of TAG is that it is a lot of fun being there. My group has, in the beginning of the year, many of us didn't know each other. We've all had a chance to bond and make friends. And also, it's that not only do we learn the course of our curricular classes, but when we choose to do a different topic of any of our projects in TAG, we get extra knowledge from that. That's one of my favorite parts, too.
Good. And Mr. Z, I'm very impressed with what you've done with the program.
Thank you.
Do the students have an opportunity to I don't know, significant input in what direction they go in? I notice there's a large focus on environmental science. I mean, is it more than just environmental science? I know you have a history day, but it seems very environmental science focused.
Well, with TAG, when I went into this position, I wanted to make sure all subjects were well represented. For the Type 3 model project, Type 3 modeling, I felt maybe if we hit the science a little bit, that will take care of that piece. History Day obviously takes care of the more liberal arts, although with History Day, they have the theme, but they get to pick their topic. I did not pick their topic, so the students have input in that. For their Type 3 projects, Matt chose to write a story. I'm there as their mentor. So for their individual Type 3s, it could be short story. Brian Ruel, again, wrote his amazing nuclear physics guide for the adolescent mind. I have another 8th grader, Erica Levering. She's doing an art piece. So the nice thing about the Type 3, it's student-driven, and whatever they want to do, I support them. And the outreach has been great. We've had, I would say, 90% success with reaching out to professionals to help the children, and they've responded in positive ways. So that makes me very happy that there are people willing to help. And our teachers have been wonderful who have been tapped to help us. They've been awesome. So I have a lot of good support from our staff at JFK. Absolutely.
I can't wait to read both the short story and the thesis on physics. Physics is one of my backgrounds.
Come early. I'll give you an advance copy.
I will be there. And again, congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Again, every reason to be proud. I'm glad that the program is up and is doing as well as it looks like it's doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Donna, then Vinnie.
Also, I have another pet project. I know you studied Hazardville and the powder mills. There's also, if the Hazardville Institute ever reopens, there will be a museum in there. And right now they have some documentation, and there's a lot of artifacts that had been donated. And it's one of the community projects that kind of goes little, I don't know, it's a little under the radar of everybody. But if you ever want to go in the Institute, give me a call. Okay?
That could be a field trip.
That could be a field trip. But not only that, they're going to put an addition on it so you can look into the engineering and all the other aspects.
Is this right, corner of Maple and 190?
This corner of North Maple and 190.
All right. I know where you're talking
Yep,
about.
you can
Great.
still see right now, because nothing's been closed in, you can see the actual structure and the repairs that have been done to the Hazardville Institute to stabilize it. So there's a lot of, there's actually glass that they save in there, that's the old glass that's got the waves, and yeah.
Maybe we
Some
could
of the
put
people
your-
will come and talk to you about trading glass.
That'd be great. We could put your Type 3 poster in there. I mean, your History Day poster in there, maybe. We'll see.
Yep.
We'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
next time they have an open house, or anytime you want, we're going to arrange a field trip for you.
Well, thank you. We'll take you up on that.
Thank you. Vinnie?
You were talking about a cost for the solar panels. How much money are you guys looking at raising?
If I'm remembering correctly, when talking with Jeff Myjack, the town is, apparently Enfield has earned solar credits. And I think Energize Connecticut will give us like about $8,000 initially. But I think the cost could be anywhere from $32,000 to almost $100,000 for the panel array at JFK and the library. So I said to Jeff at one point, I'm like, well, let's just get a small array to start with, so we don't have to worry about fundraising. But I think he wants to just kind of go maybe more full bore. It's probably still a work in process, and we're going to fundraise as best we can, especially if we do the Energy Expo again, we'll get word out to people. So honestly, I can't really give you a figure, but it's not going to be cheap. But again, it's going to be money. We're going to try to write grants.
Okay.
And again, Energize Connecticut will kick in about 8 Gs from what I know, and we'll do the best we can with grant writing and fundraising.
Well, keep us informed, please.
Oh, absolutely, yes, I will.
On the same vein, it's photoelectric collectors, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so, and you're looking to feed it back into the school?
Absolutely.
Or into the grid, or both?
No, just school.
Just school.
We would like to, that's would be perfect, just to cut energy costs. We did some research, and I think I remember the number. Last year's electric bill at JFK was $153,269.
I wish it were 1,000, but...
Right? I know, I do too. So if we could cut into that over $100,000 electric bill cost with these panels, that would be wonderful. Save the town some money.
And you're looking to set them up on the library roof?
That'd be the best place because it has a great
Right angle,
angle.
yeah.
The reason we were picked, they were going to put it on the library,
town library?
Town library. But because of the traffic on Raffia Road, wow, look at panels at JFK. So it's more of a visibility thing to kind of educate the public. And they like us. So that's another good thing, all the work we did.
Well, we like you too, and we
Well, thank you.
we appreciate the presentation, and we look forward to having you come back. And as Mr. Grady said, please keep us informed of what you're doing for the fundraising and stuff, and we'll try
will.
to help you out and as much as we can. We have this mic every 2 weeks, so.
Great, and read the Enfield Press because I tend to write articles every time we do something exciting.
Why don't you, if you get them, why don't you just forward them to our email, just so if you get
Okay.
them, okay?
Very good.
Fantastic.
Mr. Chair, I have
Yes,
another question.
Go ahead.
You say you wish to build a greenhouse.
Yes.
Whose greenhouse do you have a picture of?
Oh, that was just kind of a random Google search. Greenhouses aren't cheap, and I hear you could make them out of recycled windows. And if you think about contractors going into a home, tearing out the windows, they have to pay a cost to get rid of those windows. Why not help them out? Take that off their hands and get some community help and build a greenhouse. Of course, we'll have to talk to zoning and planning and all of that, which we will. So, one of our
Which
goals.
is a learning experience in and of itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But you've done a wonderful first year.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
It's
go ahead, Tom.
it's been a lot of fun, I have to say. I've enjoyed every day with these kids.
I may have a line on some windows for you. There's a couple of houses that I know that are having their windows redone, so.
You know, anyone on planning and zoning, you could kind of.
I can't promise you that, but when it comes to recyclable materials, I can definitely,
Well, that would be great.
so, just, just keep me posted and I.
Well, thank you. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much, Matt, especially, and you certainly handled yourself incredibly well, and we thank you for being here. Come
That's
back
right.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Z. We'll see you.
I will. Thank you.
We have a couple other items. On behalf of the board, I want to publicly thank the Mount Carmel Society. Just before tonight's board meeting, the board and the administration was over at the Mount Carmel Society for the National Honor Society Dinner and Recognition Ceremony. And this is something the society has been doing, I've been told, for over 10 years and funding most of it on their own to make sure that some of our best performing academic students are recognized along with their families. They put on a very nice dinner tonight for a lot of students from Enfield and Fermi High and their families. So on behalf of the board, we'll publicly thank them. Just to remind the board, I'm sure they don't need any reminders, it's our season of celebration. We have 3 graduations coming up, one this Thursday night, which is the adult education graduation at 7 o'clock at Enrico Fermi Auditorium. And then a week from Thursday night on the 20th, we have Enrico Fermi High School graduating, and then a week from Friday on the 21st, we have Enfield High School graduating, hopefully both with outdoor ceremonies and beautiful weather. On Tuesday, Enfield gets ready for kindergarten program will be held at the Barnard School at 6:30. And even though we'll have graduation on the 20th and 21st, the last official day for students in Enfield will be on June 24th on the Monday.
Very good. Is that a half day?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Item 8, audiences. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak to the board? Do you have a list? Welcome back, Vinny.
Hello again, how you doing? I just hope Mr. Janitis is not going to ask me any tough history questions, because I'm not prepared.
What's his specialty? Enfield history. Loved Enfield history.
The young gentleman was well-spoken.
Vinny, you're on.
Again, I just want to address a few issues that
If you could just give us your name and address.
Vinny
but just
Westlisa
for-
from 12 Deer Run.
Fantastic, thank you.
I just wanted to address a few issues that were brought up during your comments at the end of the meeting about some of the issues about Fermi. So I just wanted to make some side notes on each of them. One of them was soil concerns. It was noted that it could cost millions of dollars to deal with soil at Fermi, and in fact that the soil has been deemed 100% safe and doesn't require any further remediation unless we breach the soil for some use. Right now, I can't see any reasons why we would need to breach the soil. The grounds have been, impeccably, transformed into what they are now. And I've looked at the ADA requirements. There's no additions that would be needed, and I can't see no other outside groundwork that would require us to breach the soil. So, to put numbers out there that it would cost millions for soil, it could be just the opposite. It could be that there is nothing that we need to spend on soil remediation, because if we don't breach the soil, there's nothing we need to do to it. If we do happen to breach the soil, it could be something that is very limited. It may not be to the $1 million number. It could be much, much, much less than what some of the numbers that were discussed. I'm sure Tom will have a rebuttal on that later on. Interior classrooms. It was a concern that we have a lot of interior classrooms at Fermi. And from my count, I come up with about 10 of them. And JFK roughly has not that many, some sliver rooms, but a couple of them. The also fact is that Fermi has a lot more exterior rooms than JFK does. Fermi has 72 exterior rooms. JFK has a few less. So actually there's more exterior rooms at Fermi than there actually might be in the entire school at JFK. So the 10 rooms, they may not have to be used as classrooms, but they can be used as labs or study rooms or something that may not require total exterior lighting. But we do have options at Fermi with exterior lit rooms. ADA and civil rights compliance. Fermi does have ADA compliance issues along with the civil rights issues that were noted in 2 of the reports. The main bulk of the ADA and civil rights are general items that require general occupancy of the building, not really towards the school. There are a few things that also pertain to exactly a school type scenario. And that's something that it doesn't look to be a huge scope, but it is something of a concern. And regardless of what we use the building for, we're going to have to fix the general things. What we need to remember is that there also may be ADA issues at JFK. And I don't believe a ADA study was even done at JFK as of yet, at least as far as I know and from any of the reports that we have. So in order to be, to do kind of a fair evaluation of both, we should have an ADA compliance conducted at JFK to see if there is any issues along with that school that would be required to be fixed. And then we can compare the 2 structures and see which one, what issues are more or less at one or the other to make an informed decision on which one we want to go as far as ADA issues go. Bright open spaces. We don't have an option between building a new middle school and having these great, big, grand, wide open spaces. We have the decision between two buildings. Both of them are built around the same era, and they have kind of the same kind of design. Neither one are ideal, but we have to choose from one or the other. I know there's a lot of advancements in lighting, so I don't see this as big of an issue as sometimes it's portrayed to be. The town council really, really, really wants Fermi to be their office park, their community center, their library, their substation, a lot of different uses they have for it. But for me, I don't think it should be a concern of the Board of Education as far as what the town council wants the building for. It should be a decision based on what's best for our school system. And I believe Fermi, with the larger capacity for students, is kind of the right choice. It was designed to be a school, and we just so happen to need a middle school about the same size as Fermi, and it's just right across town. And I come up and talk about this because I have this vision of a progressive middle school that has a lot of space for the students, and it's something that prepares them for high school. I think sometimes we have a perception in town that our school systems are not good, and that's a perception. And sometimes the perception is based on a lot of different factors, but some of it's based on what actual resources that we're using. And I think that if we can take Fermi, modify it to be this progressive middle school, that may be just a perception edge we need to bump our school systems up to be perceived as something like some of the other surrounding communities that are out there. And it is really just a perception issue. And sometimes just a little bit of a facelift is going to help that. And again, I'd just like to thank everybody for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Vinny. Is there anybody else? Okay, we're moving on to item 9, unfinished business. Item A, approve the fiscal year 2013-14 school calendar revisions. Dr. Schuman, do you have some information for us on that?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the board approved its calendar for the fiscal year 2013-14, we had not had a final decision on full-day kindergarten. So there were some items listed in there for the half-day provisions we would need for full-day kindergarten. Now that full-day kindergarten is in place, those provisions have been removed, and the calendar has been streamlined to reflect all of the decisions that would have to be made if we had a half-day program. So those have been taken out, and there's 2 documents in your packet, one that has the cross-outs and one is the final document. And the only other the question at hand would be for you to take a look at, and something the board may wish to consider, and that it would be December 23rd. This year it was a half-day, and going back over previous years, some years it was a half-day, but most years it was a full day, and really depending on where it fell, sometimes it was made a decision. So right now it exists in your calendar for next year as a full day of school. And so the board, that would be different from the current year. For some reason, the board last year made the 23rd a half day, 24th is a no school day. We have gone back and replaced the 23rd as a full day of school. It's on a Monday, and the board can make a decision as to whether it wants that to be a full day or a half day.
Okay. I just as practice, and maybe Peter remembers this too, the 24th has always been a day off, except for one year that I remember they had a half day there. 1 year. And I think my understanding of this past year, there was a half day. We just missed that when we were doing the budget, because it's traditionally been a full day. My experience, and Peter, you correct me if I'm wrong, the only half day we used to have was the one before Thanksgiving. That was always the half day.
Some at the end of the year.
At the end of the year, but I mean before the holiday. It was Christmas. Christmas was almost, in my recollection, except for 1 year, was a full day. So I think that's more the tradition. The question I have is, if you're doing it on Monday, and then we're off for the rest of the time there, I'm just, that issue of opening the schools, keeping the heat on, and I know we turn things down as we go through a long holiday period. I just thought of that particular issue. So it's resolved now, but it may be something to think about in the future. Anybody else? Yes.
Is there any reason why we would have to open on the 23rd? Is that going to have a major impact on your calendar? Contractually or otherwise? I mean, you're only talking 1 day.
You have to have so many days of school, though.
But you can always add it up at the end. I mean,
You have to say when you have to do them.
is there?
Well, if you look at your calendar right now, last 2 days of school are the 181st Student Day is on the 13th of June, which is a Friday. So if you move, if you do the 23rd, we automatically go into that week of the 16th. Now, there's a good chance we're going to have at least one snow day be in that week anyway. The question really becomes, how many days, how far out do you want to push the calendar? That would be a good decision. We went back and forth on this, and the feeling of the cabinet level administration was that would be we don't have numbers, economic numbers on what it costs, but we know we keep our high schools open anyway because they're open and our middle school stays open. That would be a good down day for students and staff before the holidays if they chose to use it as a review day, down day type thing, as opposed to the Friday before. But it's certainly the board's decision as to whether they want to bring everyone back then.
Peter?
I'd concur with Tom. It's one day. I would. I concur with Tom. You too, Joyce. I think just for family planning and everything like that, I mean, if you can get out of here on a Friday or a Saturday flight or something like that, you don't have to worry about coming in that one day. I would assume there'll be a lot of people. I know a lot of times when we do have that odd day, just by a fluke of various things happening, half the kids don't come to school anyway. Or well, not half, but a third of them. A lot of them don't. So I would get rid of it and add it on the end, knowing that you're going to have the snow days, and just give them, because that's really adding 3 extra days for whatever they want to do.
I'm thinking there's a consensus here to do that.
Sounds like it.
I certainly would entertain a motion to amend this.
Move to remove
Second.
the 23rd of December as a school day, turn it into a vacation day, and add that makeup day at the end of the year.
Second.
Made by Tom, seconded by Vinnie. Is there any discussion? Sensing none, can we?
I just have one
Yeah.
question. I want to verify that the graduation days would stay the same, the Thursday and Friday of the following week.
Can't.
Well, according to your the way you set those, you set them on the 185th and 186th student days. So the graduation days would actually move to the 20th and the 23rd to be the 185th and 186th student day.
Wait.
I can
That
see you
means you
taking
have
the.
a Friday graduation and a Monday
Yes.
graduation.
That would be correct.
And that was the reason, I believe, that we left the 23rd, because, I don't know,
I don't remember that discussion.
I have a problem with graduating the two schools on different weeks.
No, I agree, but it could also be a problem because if we have 5 snow days or 6 snow days, which we've had in the last couple of years.
Correct.
Okay, it could, throw a wrench in the works anyway.
We still have
Right, but
fixed
do we leave those graduation days firm no matter what? I mean, this year, we're graduating on the Thursday, Friday, but school doesn't get out till the Monday.
dates. Right.
So
So
wait, so once they're set, they would
the
stay.
graduation stays set, and sometimes we don't actually, like in the case of Fermi High School, they will not actually receive their diplomas until Friday morning when they return.
I'm a gambler. I will tell you. The weather isn't always bad.
No, but does it have to be those days? Is it 5 days they have to be after the board policy?
I understand that. I know how to count to 5. I
No, but is
understand.
it by statute, it has to be that?
I don't know. By statute, does it have to be that, or could we have it
Could we leave it the way it is, or does it have to?
85th and throw the dice?
Well, your policy has you at the 185th and 6th is when you can begin. And what you could do is you could move both graduations out to 186 and 187. But I don't think your policy allows you, and I'd have to go back and recheck your policy. Chris is bringing it up right now. Whether you could change your policy, you could change your policy, but that would take 2 meetings to do that at this
No,
point.
we don't do- I don't wanna leave it in
To
limbo.
graduate on the 184th day. I don't think your policy allows you to do that, but we'll check right now.
I know.
It's only one day.
What, you're talking to me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it
No, it's 3 days, basically. It's one's Friday, one's Monday, graduation.
It all depends on what we've got for snow days, whether it becomes a problem or not.
It won't become a problem because it'll stay the same.
Joyce, they're fixed
Hey,
graduation.
how about we
The
get rid of
fifth.
Columbus Day?
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't even discover the country, for Christ's sakes. Lose
It's
Columbus
just a
Day for a
personal
change.
thing. I just think that it creates an inequity between the two schools when you have the weekend
I-
in between the two graduations.
I agree with you on that. I'm wondering whether we would, I don't want to make a quick decision on something without thinking of the ramifications that go on with it. Is it necessary that we make this change today, or can it wait till the second meeting in the month?
I don't see any reason why you,
Oh, Katie has something to say.
Katie,
I can tell.
just get my attention. I didn't see you down there.
I don't want to graduate on the following Monday.
Thank you.
Well, we agree
I
with you,
am your
Katie.
greatest fan, aren't I?
I mean, if it came down between having a pep rally the day before Christmas Eve and actually coming to school, even if only a third of everyone comes, I mean, 2/3, whatever, and graduating on a Monday, I'd choose coming to school before Christmas.
I think we agree with you, Katie. Could we withdraw the motion and have it be brought back after they do some research so we know what the ramifications are, and do it on the,
I withdraw the motion.
withdraw the second?
I do have the policy up here if you'd like me to read it to you.
I'd rather have you come back with a recommendation and tell us the ramifications rather than have us kind of nitpick it now. I think there's good value to the motion, but I want to know what we're doing.
Motion to table the decision on the fiscal 2014 school calendar.
Made and seconded, and there's no discussion on tabling, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's tabled until the next meeting.
I'm serious about the Columbus Day, though. I really am.
But why don't you have him look at that and
Yeah.
and look at that in terms of a recommendation from the cabinet?
Doesn't Columbus Day have doesn't it have an in-service day associated with it, Peter?
I don't think so.
No, it's tabled right now, so we'll bring it back at the
That's-
next meeting. Thank you.
Look at the calendar.
Moving on to 9B, continued discussion regarding the use of Enrico Fermi building. I stopped by to run some copies up for our later meeting here, executive session. I asked the superintendent if he had any additional information to present to us, and my understanding is that you have very, very little in terms of the things that have been keeping us busy the last 2 weeks. And I think, going to our speakers thing, we're looking at comments. We're looking at data. We want to look at all the data. We don't want to. I don't want to cut this short, and I don't want to just have little bits of data. I want to have a presentation that tells us numbers, tells us amounts, tells us issues like the soil and all those things. I don't want to speculate on any of this stuff. So I'm going to suggest that we may want to table it until we have some acknowledgement from the superintendent that they have a presentation where they can do that. That's just a suggestion. But I know there's very, very little that he has ready for tonight, and I don't want to get into things that we don't know much about. Peter?
Okay, I don't want to table it. I want to say something about it.
Okay, I'm just
Okay.
bringing it up as an issue, as a kind of a question.
Shall I say what I want to say now?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's a school now, and I think we should still be using it as a school. I've said over and over again about the alternative ed and the voc ed in this town. I still think that's a very viable program. Even if you just were to move up 7th and 8th grade and combine it with the voc ed in an alternative ed program. And there'd still be room left over in that building to do things. But it's functioning as a school now. It has some ADA things that have to be rectified, but I still think it can be used as a school. And then we still have JFK sitting over there. So to go through all kind of data collection, you can go through data collection on any school in this town probably and find all kinds of deficiencies and things like that. It's a functioning school now. Keep it functioning as a school. Get a lower intermediate grades over at JFK.
I think I don't have an opinion one way or the other on what you're saying, and certainly I appreciate and respect your opinion. But I think if we're going to make a decision that will most likely involve a referendum to do some of the work that has to be done, I think we need to have the data to present to the town, facts and figures about what is, what isn't, what we have to do, what we don't have to do, and so on. I'm not looking to shut off the debate. I'm just looking to have data in front of us to talk intelligently about it.
Where's all the data that was collected when we were arguing? Where's the consolidated heights going to be high school going to be? Enfield High School or Fermi? We collected all kinds of stuff back
I'm just
then.
looking for it to be presented to us and to the public.
Don, where's all that stuff that you guys?
Go ahead.
One of the biggest reasons that they selected Enfield High School was the soil contamination problem, because everyone that looked at Fermi, if we were going to combine the high schools, said that there was going to be a need for an addition. And that's why, I mean, the overriding consensus at the board at the time was because of the millions of dollars in soil remediation, should we break that cap? And again, it's only an 8-inch cap. To address Mr. Wasliza's comments, there's an 8-inch cap on that keeps everything contained. And if we drive a tent spike through there, we're going to bring the Department of Environmental Protection down, and that just opens a big can of worms. And from my understanding, it's 50 feet from wherever that gets broken that now has to be remediated. You start opening that was the big driving thing, because you're talking, I mean, 50 feet is a pretty big barrier, 50-foot square from that one center point. That's just, it gets to be very, very expensive very, very quickly. That is the DEP's policy right now. I believe they're trying to make it an official, not just policy, but rule. But that's just how they're functioning. And unfortunately, we do own that. Won't be federal assistance with any of that, or state assistance as far as I know, because we bought it when we put the grass in. As soon as we signed off on the cap, the town owns it. And that, you're really gambling with millions of dollars every time anybody talks about breaching that surface. I mean, we can't have outdoor graduations with tents over at Fermi because of that.
That's right. Peter?
And the other thing, too, was structurally the two buildings are very, very different. Enfield High is a much solider building to which you can make modifications to.
Enfield High, you said Enfield High. Are you talking Fermi or?
No, Enfield High was
Okay.
it's a much more solid building. You could go up on it. You could build sideways on it. So that was a big consideration, too. But another thing about Fermi on the plus side, because you can't really do much, you wouldn't be adding on to it. You really wouldn't. But it is more close to the center of town. I think the police department is dead center in town, and Fermi is just up the road. So, I mean, maybe on gas and busing and time on bus and all that stuff would also be another thing that would be beneficial for having Fermi.
It may very well be, but let's find out what it is. And I think we also know that my understanding is that we're going to be able to open the Consolidated High School in September 2016, if I read everything correctly. That means that whatever you have to do, you have to get started now. And you cannot, whatever we do with the town council, we're going to have to go and say, these are the things that have to be done. These are the reasons why we want to do one or the other. Okay, and these are the costs that are involved. Right now, I know there's a large amount of money that's still owed to the state, I believe, or the bonding people, whatever, for JFK for the stuff that was done in 2003, and I don't believe it's done until 2024. And I just found that date out today. All we're saying, Peter, is, you and I may disagree on Yusuf, but I'm not looking to cut off conversation. I just want to do it based on facts. And we're going to have to produce those facts for the council if we choose to go one way or the other.
But once again, I would say, where's all the information that both sides were? The people at Fermi were yelling their brains out, we got to be at Fermi. The people at Enfield High were saying we got to be at Enfield High. And there were all kinds of studies done, and this is how much money it would cost to do all the various things. Those are said at public meetings. I don't know who's the holder of all these documents.
I'm not. I never saw all those documents. I heard a lot of stats and figures and stuff. There were some that were verifiable, some are not. I don't see this as a huge issue. All I want to do is see the data.
The thing that concerns me the most, the longer we go to make the decision, the more it will not be used as a school. That concerns me tremendously.
Well, we have to address the superintendent has already sent a letter to the people in Boston for the ADA stuff, saying that we've gone with the other high school. So they've kind of put us on hold, I believe. Okay, that's my understanding. Secondly, we're going to have to get a real cost for addressing that. Whether it's used as a school or not, that still has to be addressed. Okay? And I think we also are going to have to look at and have an evaluation made of whether you have to replace the heating system. There's a lot of things that you look at. It may be cost effective in either building to look at and say, if you're going to do a referendum to do stuff that you're not going that's basically repairs, it may be worth looking at and cost effective to say build, what do they call it, build a new, renovate to new, and then you get reimbursed, and that's better for the town. I just think it's worth asking the questions. And right now, Peter, we've all been a little busy the last couple of weeks to try to get it, and I think I've asked the superintendent to get a hold of Art Pongrantz, who had a lot of that data, or would know where it would be at, and have them come make a presentation here and give us the data as much as we can and answer those questions. I think you also have to look at the educational reasons. We be asking the administration, is it possible to run it? What would you need to do to make it a middle school? How would you deal with it? What would need to be changed? What would need to be renovated? Those are real questions. And I'm just saying, let's get the data. I'm looking to resolve this sometime this summer if we can, but I'm not without the data. I want to make it so that it's a defensible decision, whichever way we go, and it's good for the town.
Do you need a motion to table?
Yeah.
Move to table the discussion until superintendent compiles the requested information.
I move to table and second, and there is no discussion. If you could, just by a show of hands, all those in favor of tabling it, raise your hand. Any opposed? One opposed, any abstentions? Okay, it's tabled until the superintendent gets us that. If you could work to get that, Jeff, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we need to make an addition to the new businesses.
Okay, are you asking to suspend the rules?
Yes, a motion to suspend the rules to make an addition of 2 items to the agenda.
Okay, motions to suspend the rules made by Tom and seconded by Vinnie. There is we need a 2/3 vote to be able to do that and add those 2 items. Is there any discussion on this?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
We have 2 items. One has to do with the termination of non-tenured teachers. That needs to be discussed tonight, needs to be voted on tonight so that we can afford the proper announcement time. And the second one is with regards to collective bargaining. When we were discussing after our executive session, they were accidentally not included on the agenda this time around, and they need to be added.
If we want to have action.
If we want to have action tonight.
Do we need 2/3 of all members or sitting members?
I was told 2/3 of the people that are here. I could be wrong.
Sitting,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on that? It would be added to new business, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. Suzak?
Yes.
Mr. Sirard?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
No.
Chairman Neville?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Good. So we're adding it to under new business, and they'll become 10B. Okay. Item A, approve healthy food certification statement for 2013-14. I know we had an item in our packet that explained that. Dr. Schuman, do you have any more information for that?
Oh, wait, I have to finish the motion.
Sorry.
Motion to add item 10B, action, if any, on termination of non-tenured teacher contract.
Second.
Made by Tom, seconded by Donna. Is there any discussion? Sensing none? No, go ahead.
Is this related to the other thing we were talking about here?
Yeah, it's just, it's putting on the agenda what he just asked for when he suspended the rules. He has to suspend the rules. We have to suspend the rules first, and then we can add the action item onto the agenda. Okay? Roll call, please.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. Suzak?
Yes.
Mr. Sirard?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Chairman Neville?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yeah,
Second item.
10C.
This would be action 10C. I moved add action, if any, on the ratification of a collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Made by Tom, seconded by Donna. Is there any discussion?
Do we know what it is yet? What's being offered?
The after executive.
This would,
We'll know that after
Oh.
executive session.
new business after executive
So what
session.
you're asking for is, once we know, then come back to vote on it?
If we're comfortable doing that. Action, if any, if we're ready to
Action,
make
if
that
any.
decision.
Okay.
Would it be better to add that under matters related to collective bargaining under 16A?
I don't think.
No, because that's actually in executive session, so it would be appropriate here, you just wouldn't take it up until you come out of executive session. You'd postpone 10C until after you've done 16A.
Okay, then my motion stands.
Okay.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Grady? Yes. Mrs. Suzak?
Yes.
Mr. Sirard?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
No.
Chairman Neville?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now we'll get to 10A. Dr. Schuman.
Yes, 10A is the required vote on the healthy food certification. The state requires that the boards of education in the state of Connecticut take a vote on this each year. You can either vote to follow the healthy food certification or not to follow that. It's important for you to know that all of our lunches being served to our students do follow the healthy food certification guidelines. So our students are receiving the lunch that is best for them and it's nutritionally sound. What this would further, if we went with a full healthy food certification, it would impact what you could do during fundraisers, what types of foods and how you could distribute those foods during fundraisers. And that would severely impact some of our fundraising organizations' efforts to raise funds for the school system. Now, on the other side of that, we do get a monetary incentive. We would get 10 cents per lunch if we were to follow those guidelines for all things during school and outside of school. When Ms. Edwards did her analysis, she found that the impact on the fundraising groups would be much more significant than the money that we would save on the lunches. So she is recommending, as she has in the past, that we continue to serve healthy lunches according to the guidelines to our students, but we do not follow the healthy food certification for fundraising and things outside of the lunch program. So your vote would be not to follow that, not to undertake the healthy food certification statement.
Okay. Just as information, isn't this something that comes up every year?
Yes.
And
Yes, you're required to either vote, you're required to vote every year. All boards of education must vote whether they're going to do it or not do it, and then they put, and that's for the funding piece, so that the state knows where each town has decided to come down in terms of the funding for the lunches.
I move that we approve the healthy food certification statement for 2013, 2014.
Okay, just so you clarify that. I was wondering about that.
No, it would be a no vote to reject it.
That's right, okay.
Right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joyce, okay. Is there any discussion? Peter?
No, I'm just wondering what they're serving us on our executive session.
The fundraisers is what does it. Okay, is there any other, is there any other discussion? Okay, sensing none, could you roll call, please?
Mr. Grady?
No.
Mrs. Suzak?
No.
Mr. Sirard?
No.
Ms. Hall?
No.
Mr. Janitis?
No.
Chairman Neville?
No. Moving on to, well, actually, it's actually 10B. We added the item on there, and I believe we have a motion for that.
Move that the contract of employment for Christina Mazzola and Joseph Parafati be terminated effective at the end of fiscal year 2012-2013 school year due to the elimination of the position to which the teacher was appointed or loss of position to another teacher, and that the superintendent of schools is directed to advise such persons in writing of this action.
Second.
Made by Tom, seconded by Donna. Is there any discussion?
What does this teacher currently teach?
I'll defer to the superintendent or assistant superintendent.
They are both high school science teachers.
Just as a question, are they're non-tenured teachers?
Yes.
That's correct, okay. Is there any other discussion on this motion? Peter?
I'm going to vote against this because I just don't like the idea that we're still taking teachers from the high school for other reasons so we can do other things.
Okay. Any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Grady?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mrs. Suzak?
Yes.
Mr. Sirard?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
No.
Chairman Neville?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to item, we have a 10C. We have to make a motion to.
Motion to postpone until after the executive session.
Second.
Seconded by Vinnie, made by Tom, to postpone that 10C until after our executive session. Is there any discussion on that? Peter?
I'm sorry, I didn't even hear. I wasn't.
Okay. We basically, the motion was made to postpone 10C until after which is the action, if any, on the collective bargaining agreements. Postpone it until after the executive session where we have our presentation. Okay? Do you have any questions on that or discussion on that?
No, I don't like hearing something for the first time the first day and then deciding right away. I would rather have some time to think about it, at least one meeting, but That would be my only concern about not just this negotiation, but any negotiations.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. Suzak?
Yes.
Mr. Sirard?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Janitas?
Wondering why I'm here? No.
Chairman Neville?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, going to item 11, board committee reports. Start on my left with Joyce. Any committee reports? Okay. Tom? Donna?
Because, of course, every Thursday, the building committee meets, and as liaison, we were joined at our meeting by Gil Bain, who will be the construction manager at risk, and we will hopefully on this Thursday get the start of the cost analysis for the high school. We had good news on the screw roofs, where the pitch went from a 1/2 inch per foot to a 1/4 inch per foot, which will save us a lot of money on our renovations of our roofs to the existing high school at Amfield High. There's been a lot of talk about auditoriums and things like that, so if anybody has any questions or comments, it seems like everybody's gone to a play and come back with more and more comments on auditorium seating for us to look at. But it's exciting. It's it's Enfield moving towards a new era. Thanks.
Very good, thank you.
I have a question for Donna.
Sure.
I thought when we were going through this whole thing, there was a huge argument or debate about the pitch and how we should have more pitch than less pitch.
Pitch is determined by
The distance?
No, it's determined by handicapped accessibility, the pitch of the seating.
No, he's talking
Oh,
about
the
the
pitch.
roof.
Talking about the roof.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Why are we putting them up on the roof now?
Oh, the pitch of the roof is determined by, well, basically, it's determined by the state because the state is paying for it.
So the state's telling us we have to do a 1/4 inch?
Correct. And we're being reimbursed by the state. Everybody does a 1/4 inch anyway.
Is that what they're doing over on the new police, safety academy? Do you know?
The new safety academy probably has the 1/2, but I can check with that. But that they were built under the older guidelines, which required the 1/2.
Which, boy, they must have just changed then, because we were right after them.
It just changed. It
But-
just
changed.
just
Weeks-
voted.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
weeks
weeks ago.
Literally.
Yeah, it will go into effect July 1st.
Then why were we arguing? Isn't it better for the roof to be a...
Okay.
Geez, we're only
basi-
talking
okay,
a 1/4 inch, but...
Okay, basically, it doesn't take a lot for water to run. I mean, you put water on what you think is a flat surface, and it finds a way to run. The whole reason that they thought that these heavier pitches would make the water run faster, but if the drains get clogged, which is what the problem is on roof flooding and leaking, is clogged drains, not pitch of roof, that when you have a pitch like this, you're going to collect a much larger volume of water than you are on a more slightly pitched roof. So the number one, the structural strength, and number two, as you get to the edge of the roof, you would need these large parapets just to get rid of the fact that you'd be seeing this much roofing on the edge. So it solves a lot of architectural problems and structural problems by going back to what everybody has deemed a reasonable roof pitch to make water run to a drain. And everybody out there, keep your drains clear, because that is your problem.
In your business, what do you guys recommend for schools?
What do we use? Actually, we use the 1/2 when it was state, but you have to remember the pitch of the roof is determined by the architect. The strength of the steel to hold the roof is determined by the structural engineer.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
it was Senate Bill 929 that made the change, and the change to 1/2 was done in 2002 or 2003.
Correct. It's only been about 10 years.
So it was really recent, and
Yep.
at that point, the argument was that the pitch needed to be increased because schools were experiencing mold. But the general discussion said that it was not because of the pitch, but rather of the maintenance of any drainage that these
Correct.
roofs have.
Makes sense.
So it was reduced to what is now the standard state building code, which is the 1/4 inch.
Yep.
Okay?
Amazed at some of the stuff you've done. I really am.
She collects a lot of information. That's great. Well done, Joyce. Okay, Jenny, do you have any committee reports?
Nope.
Peter? No committee. Okay, let's move on to board member comments. We'll start with Joyce.
Well, I have lots of comments about legislation if anybody wants to hear it. I went to the legislative update today. The primary areas that could be a positive influence could be a potential for funding in Common Core and evaluation. However, there is no clear definition as to, the funds were proposed or appropriated, but there's no clear definition as to how they're to be used, which means they could be used within the Department of Education as opposed to share with the locals. But that's to be determined. There has been a great deal of discussion and some legislation dealing with mental, emotional, and behavioral health of youths, and we will be experiencing more information on how we will be impacting each school and the faculty thereof. Pool safety became a big issue this year and requires extra staffing if you're using the pool for class. And any alternative school program will have to be required to be studied by the State Department of Education, which may or may not apply to us. And we can apply for a school security infrastructure competitive grant, which of course competitive means that it'll either be diluted among too many schools or the first come, first go will be getting more than anybody else, but that's available. Schools can permit high school students to earn academic credits, which I've mentioned before, based on competency rather than seat time, which in some instances could be a very positive situation. Too many other things apply to so many alliance and underperforming schools. There's a school nurse advisory council, which is being established. And the act that will impact our guards in the schools, and that no municipality or Board of Education may imply or enter into an agreement with any person other than a sworn member of an organized local police department or a retired state or local police officer. So any other possibilities are no longer allowed. That went through a great deal of work. The original bill was to study safety in the schools. That no longer appeared at the final document. There's apparently a move to have the annual high school mastery examination move to grade 11 from grade 10. So an act concerning student assessments allows students to take their final mastery examination in grade 11 as an alternative to grade 10 beginning in the 13-14 school year. But that's probably just an interim before it becomes everybody takes it in grade 11. And they've changed the name from statewide mastery examination to just plain mastery exam. And and eliminates the statutory requirement that mastery testing conform with the testing requirements of the federal No Child Left Behind Act. And we're going with Smarter Balance instead. The MBR does not change. It will remain the same as it has been for the last several years, and so for the next 2 years it will remain the same, which does have the potential for lowering on a $3,000 per student basis for a decline in enrollment. Preschool tuition for magnet schools is not the responsibility of the school districts if they do not have a full preschool program.
So that's a change. That's a change, right?
That's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
Well, it's official for this coming year anyway.
Yeah.
The RESC will be required to pay for it the first year. The State Department of Education is responsible for it for FY14, and in FY15, parents can be charged on a sliding scale,
Okay.
with the state making up the difference in the loss of tuition. The education course sharing, and I don't have the full dollar amount for Enfield, but the foundation amount has been raised from $9,687 to $11,525. And then the wonderful formula that mashes and smashes and then gets deducted from stays pretty much the same, except that the way the state measures town wealth will change from property wealth to income wealth ratio, which will be a method of measuring income. And the student need measurement has been a poverty level for the town. Instead, they will be using the free and reduced lunch figures, which is a change. And any other requirements relative to education cost sharing apply to alliance districts and/or educational reform districts, of which we are not one. The uniform accounting records that we have been told we are expected to have, now the implementation bill has finally clarified that it does still really include municipals as well. Apparently towns were not willing to accept that idea before, but it now does include them. This one, I'm not quite sure how we're going to implement. Internet posting of Board of Education spending requires each local and regional Board of Education, RESC, and state charter school governing authorities to post on its website its aggregate spending on salaries, benefits, supplies, equipment, tuition, services, and other items, and this is the problem area, for each school under its jurisdiction, beginning in FY14. The question was raised in our discussion this morning, when? It was a big question. And since they have to do a lot of this for the ED01, the general agreement was after that. So you're not doing something twice when indeed you don't have the information. But that's the kind of, and then of course there is a task force to study uniform regional school calendars. And that committee, task force, develops guidelines and then requires each RESC, aka CREC, to develop a uniform regional school calendar for each Board of Education in its service area that is consistent with the task force's guidelines by April 1st, 2014, and then allows the board to adopt the uniform calendars for the 2014 school year and requires them to do it beginning with the 2015 school year. It has proven to be an advantage in some areas. In the Learn RESC, they've done that to a great extent and have saved money on transportation and professional development. The idea that we in this area could save on professional development doesn't really fit in the model of professional development that is based on what your faculty needs at a given time for different purposes. So it's not necessarily going to be an advantage to us. I talked about the roof. The teacher evaluation program has been, I mean, we have a waiver now so that we can only do a partial, but that's been extended so that can be carried over for 2 years, not changed. We still have to start July of this year, but the modification can, or a modification can be in the second year.
For 60% like you're doing now?
I'm not sure exactly how they're defining it because that's not defined in this. And of course, in the meantime, after the NEG report, which is due, January, the State Board of Education could make changes in the requirements. So it's a moving target no matter how you look at it. And there are other minor changes and lots of task forces. Oh, I thought we talked about that the last time.
Wasn't voted on till then.
Yeah, but it has happened. And then there's the gun violence prevention and children's safety, which impacts us all in some way. The requirement, the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, in consultation with the Department of Education for development of school security and safety plan standards, to be done by January 1st of 2014. Now, this does not restrict it to something involving guns. That school security and safety would include things like flood or fire or hurricane or any other possible emergency situation. But I think we've done that year after year after year. So it's written into this bill, but probably not of strong problem for us. Yes, we have, as Donna has reminded me, but which I thought we reported on the last meeting, was,
It was a small meeting, so we voted
Yes.
on the construction manager, yes.
oh, okay, but we have a special dispensation, along with 26 other schools that were not in the original bill, to start our building now, or the potential for bonding is readily available, which save us a whole year at the very least. And money, well, the roof change will save us a significant amount of money.
No, I have 3 questions for Joyce. Are you done?
Yes,
No.
although I got more details if necessary.
The teacher evaluation thing,
Yes.
was a whole year added on, or is it just, are you just saying that the way we split it, 40 or 60/40? What,
You're given an extra year
so it's 3 years now?
to try out.
Contingent disposition for a second year?
It can be phased in over the 2 years as opposed to requiring you to do it right away.
So that's what we're doing now.
So we are phasing it in.
Phasing it in 60.
So it's really nothing new. This is what we're doing.
It gives us, what I'm hearing is, and I'm going to ask Jeff to find this out, it gives us an extra year of that dispensation.
To do the second year?
To do the second.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Well, that's what I want, yeah, he's gonna.
That's the way it sounds. We'll have to have it totally clarified when somebody decides to put it into regulation.
Okay.
The other thing it makes reference to, Professional Development and Evaluation Committee. Do we have such a thing? Have we ever had such a thing?
Yeah.
In district, yes, we do.
For years, we had.
Yeah. You used to be chair of it, didn't you?
I was on it for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tony was the chair.
When you were talking about the regional task force, that's for the regional school systems, not getting all local systems in a region?
No, you're talking about the calendar for them, having regional.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a
Okay. Okay.
by region, it's not local.
The one that quietly went by there, should a town choose to have an alternative ed program, and it has to be submitted and studied by the state?
They have to review it, yes.
So if we want to adopt an alternative program, we have to go through the state now?
It doesn't mandate that they will control it, but they must review it to see if they do approve. There's no specific statement that says they must take action, merely that they have to review any alternative program.
They've passed something saying this?
Yes.
So they're telling, oh my God.
Thank you, Joyce.
You're welcome.
I want to thank Ms. Hall for her very long dissertation on all of the laws that the state legislature has, in their infinite wisdom, has decided to make our lives and jobs all that much more complicated.
I'm sure there are more that
I am absolutely positive. Although there were a couple of bright spots, I want to thank Representative Kiner for all of his hard work in securing our funding for the new high school. He deserves a lot of credit on that one, and I have no problem telling him thank you. I do have, however, some other advice. Our educational problems in the state are very easy to fix. Simply make 25% of the state budget public education money and adjust allocations appropriately. Then assign money outside of special education, the same amount of money per child. You won't end up having all these problems with magnet schools, convoluted ECS grant forms. It's a very simple solution. And it'll work. It'll also make our budgeting process all that much more easier. And it'll also stop us from having to cut teachers every year because of the level of incompetence as displayed by Ms. Hall in her report on what our legislature has done for us. Enfield, I think, pretty much knows what it needs for education. We have brilliant people working for us. We have very good administrators. We have very good teachers. And I think we can figure it out. I think that Mr. Janitis would agree with me on this one, that if we come up with an alternative program that they have to give us their blessing is a poke in the eye. And they would have a much better time and a much better world if they would spend their time, rather than coming up with new ways to avoid their responsibilities, simply addressing their responsibilities.
Board member comments?
Under board member comments.
I don't know, I had the pleasure of walking on Saturday in the Cost of Freedom walk that went from JFK to the town hall, and it's their first annual, and I'm hoping that, we had about maybe 60, 70 people walk. Beautiful day, great, great cause, great thought going into that hopefully we'll get some more participants next year, and it'll grow as a community event.
Very good. Vinnie?
I get to embarrass my daughter tonight. I just want to wish my youngest daughter a sweet, happy 18th birthday tomorrow. Laura, my youngest, and that's it.
And she's graduating this year?
And she's graduating
graduating.
this year, yes.
And received a scholarship.
Yes.
Number of them.
Very
Yes,
impressive.
Yes.
Peter?
Tim?
Do you have any comments?
Yes, of course. I love that idea, 25%. I don't know if that would be the fixed percent, but 25% or whatever percent of the state budget, period, and then X amount of dollars goes to per student. I like that a lot. Vinny's youngest is having a birthday. Tomorrow, and we just got one yesterday that just got their birthday date assigned. My daughter Jennifer and her husband Steve just had a baby boy.
Congratulations.
I didn't do anything. But Jasper Stephen Torsch is the first grandson in the family. So,
Congratulations, Pepe.
thanks.
Congratulations. We call you Gramps now?
Pepe.
We
We have.
That's it.
Okay, Katie.
I'd like to thank everyone who attended the honors breakfast and award and scholarship night. We appreciate that you recognize all the hard work of our Fermi students. I also like to recognize the large number of students that walked in the Relay for Life on Saturday. I know of one girl who walked 17 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. And finally, graduation is next Thursday on the 20th, and I'd like to wish all our seniors good luck in their future endeavors and hope that everyone has a great summer.
Fantastic. Thank you. And we heard your name announced when we were at the awards assembly, too. We congratulate you, Katie. You certainly have represented Fermi quite well and represented your family, so congratulations.
Sorry I couldn't be there.
We heard your name, so did they. Secondly, I'm very, very pleased with Mr. Kiner and all the work that people did to get this. That is a big deal for us, and I couldn't be happier. It's going to be great for the town that we can move this along that way. I think it fits in with our budget process and the decisions that we're making. I think it's very, very
There's one more
good.
thing I really should make a point of.
Yes.
The transportation costs were put back in the budget. Otherwise, we would have something over $1 million to
Correct.
pay for busing in this town had that not been put back. And that seems to have been a collaboration of all the education-related organizations, CABE, CAPS, CASBO, et cetera, and CBIA and CCM to make that happen.
I concur. That was a scary couple of weeks while they were talking about that, and I think we have to be very vigilant to make sure it doesn't happen in future budgets, because I think it's scary. I have one other thing that I want to bring up. I know all of you are aware of Rachel's Challenge. We've had them present here, and I think we all got the same memo. But as you know, Rachel's Challenge has a year-end culminating activity called the Kindness Carnival at Fermi High School. With the help of the clubs from Enfield High School and JFK, and it's going to happen this Friday on the 14th from 4 to 8 p.m. in the gym. The Kindness Carnival is open to all of the town's pre-K to grade 5 students and their families, and we've invited the families of our school staff with pre-K to grade 5 age children. There's going to be food, many game booths planned along with a bounce house and giant slide. They also have a carnival-style slideshow planned, and leading up to the carnival, the pre-K grade 5 students have been earning kindness coins at their respective schools by performing random acts of kindness or showing examples of good character, all virtues of Rachel Scott. The kids will be able to use their coins at the carnival to play the games. If the kids run out of coins, they can purchase more for only 25 cents. So basically, and the other thing is the town council and the board contributed along with the Fermi Activity Fund to help pay for shuttle bus service back and forth from 8 different locations so the kids could get there, the kids and their parents could get there. So we were asked to announce this. I mean, the Rachel's Challenge, I think, is something we're all proud of. They've done a great job. And if folks could take advantage of this a year-end culminating activity, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Tim?
Yes.
I found another piece of paper. I had some comments, if
Go
you don't
ahead.
mind.
Go ahead.
Okay. One would be at JFK. The foreign language teachers are still teaching on carts.
Mm-hmm.
They're moving around. And I'm wondering if there's any possible way we can get them in a classroom where they can stay in one place. And the only solution that I personally see that seems rather obvious is something being done with those trailers.
Peter, I can answer the question
Go
for you
ahead.
because Dr. Schumann and I have met for several weeks several weeks ago with the town manager and the mayor. The money's already been appropriated. They have 2 designs out there. It's like $16,000 to fence it in. I know they need this space for scheduling, and I would, they're ready to go on it. All we need is to get it through over there.
A fence.
They've got all.
I just want to know I can cross off my fence right here.
Yes, they've actually got 2 different plans. One's a little more
Okay.
expensive than the other, and my understanding is they're going to talk to the principal and get it done, because I've been pushing it for probably a month now, if I'm not mistaken.
Didn't know that.
I thought the money hadn't been approved. They have the money, and they're ready to go.
So next year, we can say that the foreign
They
language
could do
teachers...
it right now if they wanted to.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good. And the other thing, too, is a concern. I drive around town, and I see kids out for recess. I see kids, the outside gym classes taking place, and you got your sporting events. Next year, are we going to let the kids at Enfield High walk across the parking lot again? I mean, kids are outside at the middle school and the elementary schools, and I mean, the way the building is still set up, I mean, I think it's still a residue from an overreaction that with Newtown, and I think it's time that if everybody else is going to get to go outside, that we can at least let our high schools walk across the parking lot.
I have an answer, but I'll defer to Chris on that one. We have a meeting tomorrow. We can certainly bring it up then. But Chris, I don't know whether you want to respond to that.
Sure, Mr. Janice, I think the response to that was obviously after the incidents at Newtown, but also there was some concern from a safety perspective for students walking across essentially a live parking lot during the school day. We have not. There has been a request at Enfield High School for students to go outside during lunch periods like they have in the past, and we've okayed that as long as there's adult supervision in the area, just as like we would when we refer to recess and other outdoor activities. There's an adult presence there. When the students are crossing the parking lot, we don't have enough personnel to do traffic control to make sure that cars aren't driving in and out while those students are crossing, and that was part of the reason for asking that process to stop.
I would say that's the first time I've ever heard that reasoning. But if you're going from the A wing over towards the C wing, I would assume you're entering where the entrance is to the cafeteria and auditorium. I mean, it's not like they're wandering, and plus it's teacher parking for the most part. And I don't know if there was ever a problem before. I've never heard of one.
There was an accident, Mr. Janice.
There was one?
Yes, there was.
Down in the parking lot or on the hill?
In the parking lot.
Okay. No, I'd still like to see him have the right to cross.
You all set, Peter? Okay, very good. Moving on to item 13, we have need to approve minutes for special meeting minutes for May 21st, 2013, and regular meeting minutes for May 28th. I'd entertain a motion for May 21st at this time. Moved by Joyce. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donna. Is there any discussion? By a show of hands, all those in favor of approving those minutes? Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay, I have need for a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for May 28th.
So moved.
Moved by Vinnie. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donna. Is there any discussion? Sensing none, by a show of hands, all those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. Moving on to item 14, I don't believe there's any accounts and payroll tonight. 15, correspondence and communication, I don't believe we have, or do we?
I guess Katie mentioned that the graduation for Fermi is on Thursday, and we did receive here at our desks the graduation for Enfield High is on Friday, the 21st. I want to mention, again, it starts at 7, which is a half hour different than we normally have had. So we're a little bit delayed. Hopefully we'll catch the sunset.
Do you want to inform that the board send a plan for Joel Krieger?
Oh, okay. And we also, it was her sister?
Here's her mother.
There's a mother. Actually, at Enfield High, Mrs. Krieger's mother passed away, and the board did send a plant in honor of her mom. So, not good news, but.
Very good, thank you. Item 16, executive session. We have need to go into executive session for matters related to collective bargaining and matters related to the superintendent's evaluation. Entertain a motion to that effect?
Motion for executive session?
Second.
Okay, made by Donna, seconded by Tom. Any discussion? All those, and do we need a roll call or a show of hands? All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? One opposed, Vinnie? Okay, we're going to move down to the Enfield room, and we will come out of executive session if it's the will of the board to vote on the collective bargaining issue, which is 10C, I believe. Thank you all.